Hi folks, this is Brother Mike, and I'm glad that you're here with me again. I'm glad that I'm here with you. And hang on to your hats, because boy do I have a tale to tell you this time. It's almost unbelievable. I mean, even now, after I've prayed about this video, reviewed the information that I'm about to impart to you, and made sure that I can be as accurate as humanly possible, I'm still having a hard time believing what I'm about to tell you. And it falls under the category, matter of fact, I've entitled the video Democratic Fundraising Scandal, Integral Resources Incorporated. And this is an exclusive report from your brother Mike. This is the first in a series of exclusive reports on a Democratic Party fundraising scandal. You're hearing news of this scandal for the first time right here from your brother Mike. And this video is going to be long, so, bear with me, okay? It's going to be well worth your listening to. And here we go. Americans have just finished a grueling election cycle in which we saw a record-breaking amount of money raised from Americans dedicated to the advancement of their particular brand of political agenda. Democrats raised a total of $1,051,586. Holy cow. A lot of money. In the billions, okay? Like a little bit over $1 billion. And the Republicans raised also a little bit over $1 billion. $1.3 billion. For a total of over $2 billion. Now that's a lot of money. Imagine what we could do with that kind of money if we reformed our election laws. Maybe we could feed hungry people. Maybe children in America wouldn't have to go to bed at night hungry. Now, this report deals primarily with second-party funding efforts conducted on behalf of the Democratic Party, as well as other political and environmental organizations on the presidential, in the political realm, senatorial, and congressional levels. We'll be looking at some of these environmental organizations as we move along. Now, the specific campaigns involved on the political level were Obama for America, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the DSCC, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC. Specifically, the fundraising organization referred to in this exclusive report is Integral Resources Incorporated, headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with fundraising centers located in Cambridge, Worcester, Massachusetts, Columbia, Missouri, and Raleigh and Durham, North Carolina. We're talking about a big outfit. This organization is privately owned and founded by a gentleman named Ron Rosenblith, who is the CEO with a long-time relationship with Democratic Senator John Kerry. You can get more information on this organization at www.integralresourcesincorporated.com or by calling them at 617-492-4474. It's important to note that while this fundraising organization did raise funds on behalf of Obama for America, partway through the presidential campaign, for reasons presently unknown to Brother Mike, this relationship was terminated. In hindsight, it's now easy to postulate why this relationship was severed. Additionally, Senator-elect Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts did not receive a dime in funding from IRI, nor did she allow even the mention of her name by any of its agents in the course and scope of their fundraising efforts. Again, in hindsight, it's presently not difficult to see why. On behalf of the professional fundraisers, of which I was one, may I say that not one ever had personal knowledge that certain verbiage they were compelled to employ was false or misleading. For the most part, these individuals were occupants of the lower economic strata of our society, and their efforts were motivated by the need to put food in their children's mouths and shoes on their feet. No ill will or illegal behavior was ever known by them or intended. In essence, they were simply exploited. Incidentally, for the most part, they were kicked to the curb by IRI after the elections. Nor is it clear at this date, December the 15th, 2012, whether any of the supervisory staff of Integral Resources Incorporated had personal knowledge of the deceptive and fraudulent practices which I shall now establish. Now, folks, in the process of soliciting donations, agents of IRI would be asked this question from time to time. And this is the crux of this video and this scandal. And I hate to use that word because it's so trite, but it's scandalous. Now here's the question. How much of my donation goes directly to the particular organization that the funds are being raised for? Fundraising solicitors were directed and compelled to answer this question in the following manner. 100% of the money you contribute will go directly to the organization. Of that 100%, about 80% goes directly to the campaign, while 20% goes to overhead such as rent, utilities, and my services. Okay? Basically, that's the message. You know, it's like an 80-20 split, you know. On some of the scripting that solicitors like me receive, you know, it may have varied a little bit, 82%, 81%, you know. But basically it was a breakdown of 80-20. Now we now know that this statement was absolutely false and in fact misleading. This statement is in fact a bodacious and deliberate lie. Integral Resources Incorporated deliberately and knowingly misled each and every solicitor in its employ and under its command and control. These solicitors nationwide total some 300 plus individuals. This is the scope of this organization. You know, they've been around, I think, since 1990, so they've had enough time to figure out how to make this thing work. And they've also figured out who to get in there to articulate the message, you know. And basically, you know, nobody really likes to talk on the phone. and very few people, have the desire to do political fundraising. Unless you like it, some people are absolute fiends about this stuff. They watch MSNBC, CNN, Fox News to get a little bit of a contrast, and they're just political junkies, But I'll tell you, for the most part, the people that work there, and I'm going to go on, Okay, now how does Brother Mike know all this? I'm going to tell you how. One of my fellow employees, a young college girl who I'm not going to name, provided me with a document from the state of Washington entitled Commercial Fundraising Profile, registration number 16. The information was provided to the state of Washington by the law firm representing IRI, Kopelwitz and Cantor, LLC, 310 West 20th Street, Suite 300, Kansas City, Mo. It also references a federal EIN number 04-303-8933. This document specifically states the following, and I quote, 1. The numbers provided are for the organization's fiscal year ending December 31st, 2011. 2. The contributions, under contributions, this is a field, under contributions, there is a total listed of $2,861,108. 3. Under the field amount to charity clients, there is a total of $690,520. Number 4. 24% and not 100% of the contributions raised by this organization were returned to or retained by the charity clients. Number 5. No information is contained in the fields entitled Commercial Fundraisers Comments regarding Solicitation Report and Commercial Fundraisers Solicitation Comments. Those fields are blank. I don't know if the state of Washington or I should say Washington requires that information, but the fields are blank. Number 6, in the field entitled Charities who have retained the services of the commercial fundraiser, the following organizations are listed: American Council of the Blind, Amnesty International of America, Incorporated, Anti-Defamation League, and Environmental Defense Fund, Incorporated. No, excuse me, there's more. League of Conservation Voters, Incorporated. Planned Parenthood Action Fund, which is the political arm of Planned Parenthood. And finally, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, Incorporated. Conspicuously absent from this list is Obama for America. If only 24% of the contributions raised went to these charities on average, where did the other $2,170,588 go? The answer appears obvious. Straight into the coffers of Integral Resources Incorporated. Not exactly what the donors of these organizations were told or would like to hear, is it? Now, this information motivated Brother Mike to do a little digging. I contacted the state of North Carolina, where 2 locations are. I discovered a document entitled North Carolina Solicitation Campaign Financial Report, filed on October the 5th, 2012. This form commanded Integral Resources to answer numerous financial questions under the pains and penalties of perjury. It is notarized by a Massachusetts notary public, Stephen R. Galante, and signed by a Michael Campbell, Secretary of IRI. It was sworn to and subscribed before the notary on September the 18th, 2012. It indicates that the beginning date of the fundraising campaign began on 8/23/2011 and ended 8/22/2012. While it does not itemize each and every client for which funds were raised, it does break the gross revenues and expenses down to a national and state of North Carolina basis as follows. Number 1, national, $367,921.39, a very specific figure. 2, North Carolina, $12,952.24. 12 fields on this report ask for an itemization of expenses that range from legal and accounting fees, office equipment, telephone bills, entertainment, and facilities rentals, just to name a few. Only one of these fields is filled in, and that's the field entitled Solicitor's Share, Commissions and Fees, also broken down on a national and a state level as follows. National, $32,441.10. And North Carolina, 11,000. I tell you, I got my my commas wrong. Let me see if I can get that for you, okay? Yeah, here we are. Okay, the national figures are for the gross revenue raised is $36,790. Boy, they got it wrong. $367,000, I should say, $921.39, correct. Carolina, $12,952.24, correct. Now the solicitation fees nationally, $324,441.10. And state of North Carolina, $11,423.88. All right. Now, how does that break down? They appear to be claiming that the solicitors who were duped into lying to donors and who consist of poor, racial minorities, young single parents, teenagers, which falls under the category of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, in my opinion, and struggling college students. These are all the classes and types of people that work for this place. This document says that they were recipients of 88% of the revenue raised nationally and 83% of the revenue raised in the state of North Carolina. Now, in reality, these individuals, these fundraisers, some people like to call them solicitors, were paid a base rate of $8.50 an hour and were damn lucky to make enough to barely make ends meet, okay? I mean, some of these fundraisers were even homeless people. I mean, they lived on the street, and they showed up at work looking and smelling like they lived on the street. Many were afflicted with mental health issues. I mean, we had people that were hired into that place that got on the phone and almost literally caved under the pressure. You know, fellow fundraisers had to go into the manager's office and inform the manager that they better get that person out of the fundraising room because they looked like they were going to flip out. I'm not lying, you know. Some people with very, very, profound physical abnormalities. I mean, we have one young guy working there that was thrown 20 feet off of a bridge onto a railroad track and dragged onto the track by the companion he was with and allowed to lay there until a train ran over him. I mean, he lost his leg. I mean, the guy's got a titanium leg, you know, and where's he going to get a job, you know what I mean? I mean, some of the, college students that were very adept at the job. You know, we had people majoring in political science there, you know, very bright young people, you know, and eager and energetic, you know, and really looking to add a little asterisk to their resume, you know. And, we had a lot of other people there, you know, that had spiritual, what I call spiritual conditions and abnormalities, you know. People afflicted with, depression and low self-esteem, and, I mean, how they ever weathered, the rejection rate, I think is really a testimony to their inner desire, to overcome their spiritual limitations, and psychological limitations. And, many of them were precluded from finding any other form of employment. I mean, we had, old black ladies there with no teeth, trying to make a little money, so they could feed their grandkids, stuff like this. And including Brother Mike, and my motivation for being there was, I have a alternative form of income, so I didn't have to rely totally on the income there, but I mean, I still was having a struggle to make ends meet. I made a personal sacrifice because I wanted to be part of the dynamic, that it elects our President Obama, because I love my President Obama, And an uncomfortable number of these people that were employed by Integral Resources Incorporated also had drug issues, and your heart really went out to them, But people, nationally, according to this document, only 17% of the revenues collected on average went to the charities represented by Integral Resources Incorporated in North Carolina. Nationally, only 12% of the gross revenues collected went to the charities represented. Where, you ask, did the balance go? Directly into the coffers of Integral Resources Incorporated. I'm not done yet, people. Brother Mike did some more digging. I retrieved the figures from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for 2 fiscal years, 2010 in 2011. In documents presumably filed under the pains and penalties of perjury as well, they claim one single client for the year 2010, League of Conservation Voters. Now, I don't know because I wasn't with them during this time, but I have a sneaking suspicion that their League of Conservation Voters wasn't their only client in Massachusetts that year. In this document, they claim that $265,110 was raised for the League of Conservation Voters, and that $35,000, a kind of weird round number, went to the client. Folks, that's 13.2%. Where did the rest go? Directly into the coffers of Integral Resources Incorporated. To tell you the truth, when I looked at this document, I couldn't believe what I was reading. They put you under so much pressure. They want this money so badly. Really like they're dope fiends for money. And this whole money thing, about politics, it is way out of control, people. And I've been doing this thing for a year. It's almost a year exactly. And for the past month or so, after going through the election cycle, I've had to really question, the validity of the work that I was doing, even though my motivation, I think, was proper. I love my President Obama, and I think he's the best man for the country, and if there's anything that I can do to help get him elected, of course I want to be part of that, But apart from that, and, this whole fundraising thing, it is really out of control, people, Hey, let me move forward here, okay? Now, in the documentation field, with Massachusetts, for the year 2011, it gets a little bit better than 13.2%. And, the number of charities increases by like 1,000%. They list the following charities and offer the following breakdowns on the revenue. Now, track with me, okay? American Council of the Blind. Blind people like my Aunt Shirley, who's now pushing 90. These people really need the services of this organization. They got 34.84% of $280,542 even. Number 2, Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, 31.7% of $98,922. Environmental Defense Fund Incorporated, one of my favorites, 41.90% of $495,045. League of Conservation Voters, another one I had trouble with. They have a dual mission. One is, they advocate for sound environmental policy, but the other one is they defeat candidates with very poor environmental records. They publish the records on their website, and they call it the Dirty Dozens list. And it's really an effective tool for people, who are concerned with the environment, because this past election cycle they were able to defeat 11 of the 12 people. They have an overall record of 63%. They've been doing this since 1969. Wonderful organization. But I always had a better time with the EDF. But check this out. They got 0% of $586,708. Now, all you people out there watching this video who got a phone call one day on behalf of the League of Conservation Voters and ponied up, in some cases hundreds, in some cases thousands. I have personally gotten donations over the phone on a credit card for $1,212. I know people in that place that have received donations of $5,000. And now here in this case of the League of Conservation Voters, they didn't get a dime. Planned Parenthood Action Fund, this is the political arm of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. And they need every bit of it because they're under a withering attack by old white men in the House of Representatives that think they can tell women what to do with their bodies. 0% of $35,821. They can get a dime. Planned Parenthood Action Fund Incorporated. And this is kind of a weird entry. I mean, it's right off the record, but it's entered twice, exact duplicates of the name with two different sets of figures. And in this one particular case, they say that 55.03% of $28,881 went to the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. Oh, I'm sorry, Planned Parenthood Federation of America. They're claiming that 27.09% of $1,062,249 went to them. 27.9%. Here's the duplication. Planned Parenthood Federation of America Incorporated. However, in this one, they state that a mere 2.9% of $184,676 went to their organization. How they get the two different figures, I don't know. And how the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, how it didn't hit some kind of, throw up some kind of red flag, I don't know. But I lifted it right off the document itself. And now here we go. On average, overall, 23.21% of the total revenues raised in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts went directly to the charity. All right? Kind of weird. It makes you kind of wonder. Where did the rest of the money go? I think you know the answer to that question by now, people. Don't take Brother Mike's word for it. Even in the Bible it tells you, test the spirits to make sure they are of God. Make sure that this is what I'm telling you is the truth. Because, Brother Mike's all about the truth. And the reason why Brother Mike's all about the truth, because truth is the only thing that we have in this world that makes us free. Let me show you some examples of the actual verbiage from the scripting fundraisers were required to use. I got it right here. See if you can see it. There it is. Okay, now this is the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. Look at right down there. What does it say? 78% of funds go to ADL programs. 22% of funds go to administrative and fundraising costs. That's a far cry more than the 31% reported. And 31% is a far cry less than the 100% they told us to tell people. and the 23.21% that actually went to the charity. Hey, let me tell you something, people. Something slick's going on downtown, all right? I got another one. Just to give you an example, I don't have one of each one of the campaigns. But you have to take my word for it when I tell you what they told us to tell them. And this is evidence that my word is true. Now check this one out. This is the EDF, one of my favorites. What does it say? It says 81% of the funds go to EDF's programs, and 19% of the funds go to administrative and fundraising costs. This is right off the information that we're provided with, that we're supposed to provide the donors with. And there's one for each campaign. You've seen it with your own eyes. Brother Mike is telling you the truth, because Brother Mike's always going to tell you the truth, because Brother Mike loves you. Now here's the big question, people. How much did these organizations know, and when did they know it? Very common question, isn't it? Too bad we have to ask that question so often in our society. Too bad there's so many big shots out there who think that they're so above the law and so unaccountable that they can bend the truth to the point where it's like a pretzel, and they're trying to pass off a lie for the truth, and then have the nerve to provide employment opportunities, calling themselves a contributor to the community, to some of the most vulnerable members of the community, and then get them in there and make liars out of them. One must presume that each of these charities had to know how much they were receiving. They got a check. They know how much IRI gave them. One must also presume that because of their fiduciary obligation to the people they serve, they did their due diligence and reviewed the scripting that Integral Resources paid fundraisers who employed. Hey, if I was the, Fred Krupp, the CEO and chairman of the Environmental Defense Fund, and I was employing a professional fundraising organization to raise funds for my organization and my cause, and blue skies, green trees, and clean water, I want to know every word that was coming out of the mouth of the people that were articulating a message on my behalf. That's what you call a fiduciary duty. They have a duty to make sure that the truth is being told. The unanswered question is, were they complicit in this fraudulent manner of raising funding? I don't know. I'd like to believe that they weren't. I'd like to believe that the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee didn't know that IRI was telling people that 100% of the money that they give them was going to go to the DSCC, because hey, they know what that check was. Maybe IRI was underreporting to them. I don't know. But something is wrong. Do you understand? Do you see? I'm going to kind of wind it up a little bit for you people. I know this has been a long video, and I hope that I've been clear in articulating my message, and I hope you can detect how important this is to me and to you and to our society. Because these people are our leaders. And let me tell you something, folks, okay? You know, you get two choices in this life when it comes to who is your superior, you know, and who you subject yourself to. You know, whose authority you recline in. You know, you can either be led or you can be driven. I like to use the example of the shepherd. You know, the shepherd leads the sheep. The sheep follow the shepherd. The sheep know the sound of their own shepherd's voice. The shepherd grooms the sheep. The shepherd protects the sheep. Every night, all the shepherds get together. They put their sheep in what they call a sheepfold. And in the morning, when they all go there and open the door to the sheepfold, each one of them sheep knows which shepherd belongs to them, and they follow that shepherd. You know, I like to kind of think of myself as a sheep. You know, when I submit myself to the authority of somebody, I want to be led. You know, but I didn't get led here. I didn't get led at Integral Resources Incorporated. I got driven. And you know what, people? You lead sheep, but you drive goats. That's your choice. You got to be you got to make up your mind. Are you going to be a sheep or a goat? The goat herder stands behind the goats and prods them along by beating them with a stick. Okay? You get the imagery here? Now I'm going to conclude with a personal story of a woman that I spoke to on the telephone. Never forgot this woman during the entire course of my fundraising. This is when we were doing the Obama for America. And for some reason, you know, they took the account away from us. You know, they told us that, you know, we didn't do good enough in terms of our collections, and therefore Obama for America took their business to another fundraising, private fundraising organization. I suspect, and this is only my opinion, you know, that explanation was not true. Because what really jumps out at me is in all of these reports, and I have not mentioned the report from the state of Missouri, because they don't publish their stuff in the detail that I needed in order to make an analysis of what was going on there. But they do mail it, you know, so I've mailed them a request and they're going to mail it to me. I just don't have it for you at this time. But I'm sure that the information that I will receive will resemble the information that I have from the state of Washington, in which they have no office, but apparently Washington requires them to register, because we do call people in the state of Washington, Massachusetts, and North Carolina. But I want to tell you this little story, you know. I can't help but to reflect on a call I made to a little old black lady from the South. You know, it was like talking to one of my aunties. You know, they want you to ask these people for money 3 times. You know, if you don't ask them 3 times for money, they will often simply send you home for not doing the job. And it can even result in termination, you know. You have your primary ask, which is in most cases $150, and then it descends. You know, you justify it with another reason, and then you go, well, maybe you can join us at 100. You know, no. Well, you know, I know how you feel. You know, a lot of people tell me the same thing. But if we don't do something about global climate change, Mrs. Jones, global climate change is going to do something about us. Could I count on you to join us at the $50 level? That's the third ask. I said no. You know, that type of thing. But I couldn't put a second and a third ask on old people. You know, because some of these old people, you know, they really had a hard way to go. You know what I mean? And I suspected as much with this little old black woman, you know. But she was our darling. And obviously she was old, and obviously she was nearly destitute. But she wanted to donate $10 to President Obama. She loved her president probably more than I do. You know, a lot of old black people out there, that I talk to are so proud of President Obama, because they lived in that era, when we didn't have any black representation in the Congress or the Senate. And to believe that we would ever have a black president was a wild fantasy. Some of these people that I spoke with were old enough to remember, these old Jim Crow laws, when they had excluded black people, from voting by literacy tests and whatnot, So, they really took a personal interest in supporting our president, as did this old destitute black woman from the South. She wanted to give this $10. And I did everything I could not to compel her to donate. But she would have no part of it, people. She was determined. Many of the people who donated through me were old, sick, poor, and struggling. People that Mitt Romney referred to as the 47 percenters, I talked to these people on the phone, and I heard their pain, and I heard their stories, and we were told to ignore their stories and continue with our second and third ask, and to grow a thick skin. And we were informed that we're not there to be social workers, we're there to get money, But you got to be pretty heartless to do something like that, and unless you were compelled by urgent circumstances in your personal life where you needed the $8.50 an hour, you didn't do it, or if you could get away with it, you tried not to. But some people were unemployed. They donated anyway. They had hope that their money was going to change things for the better, not just for them, but for people similarly situated to them in America. Others carried the burdens of supporting not only themselves in their old age, but their children and their children's children. I talked to people on the phone that, where their grown children had lost their houses and lost their jobs, and were living back home with their own children, and the grandparents who lived in that era, when white people could advance themselves on their own merit and, be thrifty and lard up something for the future. Well, hey, their little nest egg was being evaporated quickly, because now they were supporting not only themselves, but 2 families. Because of the present economic conditions that they believe President Obama had the ability to get us out of. So they gave money. Each one of them had a dream that if the Democratic Party prevailed, all of our lives would be better off than to be under Republican Party rule. Little did they know that the bulk of their donations would end up in the pockets of a rich businessman and in the coffers of Integral Resources Incorporated in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They may have suspected, but they refused to allow themselves to believe that our calls were an act of fraud, and that we were misinforming them and misrepresenting ourselves. By being compelled to do so. People, I can be very persuasive, and I can be very charming on the phone, and I can be very compelling. I've been talking to people on the phone for 28 years, And when I go to work, not only as a professional fundraiser, and this is the first time I've ever done this, but in the marketing world for goods and services, I'm the goose that lays the golden egg. I'm the guy that everybody wants, because every time they give me $1, I make about 11 for them. And I'm telling you people, there's no shortage of greedy businessmen in America, but there's an abundance of businessmen, and this is a little off topic, and I think there's somebody out there who knows what I'm talking about. There's an abundance of businessmen that want to take your services and don't give you your money. But a lot of my fellow fundraisers were equally as persuasive and compelling as me. Because like the people that donated money to us, many of us, were there because, we wanted to be part of history. And that's electing President Obama to his second term, and electing 4 Democratic women to the United States Senate, of which there are now 14 women in the United States Senate for the first time in American history. And who better to wage this war on women that's being perpetrated by these old white men in the House of Representatives but a woman? I'm not going to take any more of your time, folks. I'm getting tired, But I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of my journey. I hope this message has caused you to think and has angered you. But frankly, I hope you call this organization, and I believe I gave you their number. I'll give it to you again. 617-492-4474, Integral Resources Incorporated, and give them a piece of your mind. So, as I sign off, like I always do, I want to say, this is Brother Mike. Been glad talking to you. Been good talking to you. God bless you. And God bless America.